Lucy, so far so good. We have done how many classes? 4.
Yeah, after you, we have done 2. You've missed 2.
But we have 2 recordings.
Yeah, we have 3 recordings. 1 has just not been posted.
Oh, we have 3.
Yeah, we have 3. So
I watched 2.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell Kevin to post the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Welcome on board, everyone. Our class is starting. Last week, maybe just for a catch up, those who are in class can remind us to engage us with those who are in. So what exactly do you remember from the last lesson? Lihanda. I always mention names so that we move fast. Unmute. Captain, you want to talk? Your mic is on. Hello. Captain. Ramadan.
Yeah, I'm still looking for a place that I wrote. So let me check. Okay. The previous class. It's the one you taught about the input, the output, and so on.
Yeah, so you remember the inputs and the output statements. We saw how, for those who are not around, just a quick catch up. Last time we were discussing on how to use the input statements, the input functions, so that we are able to work with an interactive program where you are asked to input something as a user, and then you input, and you are also able to print it out on the screen. So we talked about input function, and we also talked about print function. We said that input function always accepts every input as a string. So when you're working with numbers, you need to cast so that it is received as an integer, because again, you cannot do mathematical, you can't do maths with string. You can only maybe join them together, but you cannot add. So therefore, when you're working with input function, you have to cast, and I showed us how to cast, but we are still going to meet them a lot. As you get the errors, you will be able to remember, and then you will be able to work it out. We also saw how we can work with the print function so that after our work is processed, we are able to see it. And I gave a flow chart on how all that goes. And then we also learned about, we started on control structures, and that is what we are going to continue with today. So on control structures, I said that we have 3 control structures, not just in Python, but in programming languages. So we have sequence, we have sequential, let me just write it as sequential. Then we have branching. So branching is also called decision making. It's also called selection. Yes. Then number 3, we have looping. Looping is also called repetition. it is also called iteration. So every time you hear like iteration, looping, or repetition, it is the same thing. Branching, decision making, or selection, it is the same thing, sequential. And I said that in sequential, a program code is executed from the beginning to the end, step by step. So you start, then you do some input, you do. So now what is the actual particular element? Daniel, next time you're joining, kindly mute. Okay, so in sequential, you just start, go to maybe some input, some process, some output, and end. So it goes just step by step from the beginning to the end. But then when you get to branching, a little revision on that, because that is on my screen. So I'll be able to just do a little revision on it as we continue. The simplest branching statement is a conditional. So we talked about if you have some code, like in the diagram. So the diagram is just going to maybe give us a flashback. You can have some code, and when you reach some point, you need to perform a test. So the test can always be true or false. And then you decide at this point is where now you make a decision on whether to branch to this block or to branch to the false block. But after you do that, it continues. And that is what, maybe let me give an example with the withdrawal of money. When you go to withdraw money from the bank or from M-Pesa or whichever place you want to withdraw money, first you will check the deposit. So there will be condition on the deposit, and the deposit must not be 0 plus. It also have to have some transaction cost. So if I have 20,000, this is 2,000. If I have 20,000 and I want to withdraw like 50,000, then I'll be like, what I want to do is here, I want to withdraw. But then the condition will be like, how much do I want to withdraw? I want to withdraw 50,000. So there will be a test. Is what I want to withdraw in my account? If yes, then I will withdraw. I'll be able to withdraw. If no, then I'll receive a message, a nice message from the bank or M-Pesa telling me, sorry, you have insufficient fund. So the sorry, you have insufficient fund is in the false block, but proceed and withdraw is in the true block. Then once I do that, then other things always follow. Do you want a receipt? Do you want to exit? Do you want to do another thing? So all those continues down. But there is a point of branching where either you get a message insufficient fund or you actually withdraw. So that is much about branching. A test expression that evaluates to true or false. Then there is a block of code to be executed if the test is true, and another optional one to be executed when the test is false. And we said that in Python, we use if. It has to be in small letters. We use if, and then for the condition. So we say if, and then you give your condition. You give the condition, and then the syntax requires that you put a full colon after the condition. Once you put that full colon, you have to indent the true block. So this is the true block, the block to be executed when that condition is true. there could be several things to be done when that condition is true. And then if the condition is not true, you come back, put an else, and put the code to be executed when the condition is false. We also said that could be you want to check on several conditions. So you will have if, and then condition, full colon, then the true block. So this is the block that will be executed if that condition is true. But then we can have elif condition 2. So condition 2, full colon, and then we get the block to be executed when condition 2 is true. And then it moves to condition 3, condition 4, like that. And that is what we saw in the program that was done by the others. So let me just get one program to maybe show that very fast so that I can leave the, okay, I know it is not this one. I'm getting somebody's work. Ramadan, where is your work? Could it be this? Yes. So, let me see. Good. So Ramadan did it and the others did it just as well. There is if, so we were trying to write a program that grades students. So if a student gets between 0 and 39, that student will have an E. So it is if marks is greater or equal to 0 and marks is less or equal to 39, print E. But then if the student gets between 40 and 49, you print D. So it will be elif. So this condition will be done if this is not true. If this is not true, this other condition will be checked. If this is not true, this other elif, and then this other elif. If all are not true, then that is when you will be told print not within the range. Like the kind of marks you are giving is not within the range. Not within the range. So I'm entering marks that is more than 100 and also out of range. So that's why I get that. We also discussed that if elif, all the elifs plus else must always be on the same line unless they are part of the block. Unless you want that I have this if and there is another if which is part of this block so that it goes inside there. And so we discussed on indenting and the necessity on why you really should indent. I think that is enough for that. We talked about comparison operators. So when you're doing your branching, Captain, you've raised your hand? Or it just happened?
No.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear you.
In the code that I gave,
yes.
After running if I input a number that is more than 100, it brings an error. So I was asking where would the problem be?
Oh yeah, Captain, I saw your work and I actually commented that your syntax wasn't Python. So if I share it here, I'll take another so many hours. Maybe we can remain after the others have gone so that we discuss it with you. Will that be okay?
I gave another one.
Oh, you sent another one. I haven't seen the new one. So maybe I'll, if you allow me, I can teach, and then as others drop, we remain with you for a few minutes and then we check it through. Will that be okay? So that we don't take so much time. Daniel is also raising up his hand. Okay, Daniel?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is my second class to attend. I attended the first class, then this. How far have you gone?
We actually talked about that before you just came in, but we have learned on variables. We have learned variables, data types, then input, output statements. Then we have done branching statements. Today we are supposed to start on loops, but I was just going through branching. And then we also, we have shared to Zoom on the WhatsApp. A third one will be shared. This is the fourth one.
Okay, cool.
And I'll request that now I take the lessons, the questions maybe at the end so that it does not interfere so much with our recording. Especially if it is not on the part that I'm explaining. If you allow me, you can just write down and then at the end we ask. But if it is where I have to stop and re-explain it, then that will be okay. If you allow me, that will be fine. Thank you. So I was here now, comparison operators on int and float. We talked about this. The comparison operators, I keep repeating this because this is what will help us when we are looping and also when we are branching. You cannot branch if you don't test a condition. You test a condition by the use of comparison operators, because now the result will be either true or false. And when it is true, it takes a branch. When it is false, it takes another branch. So that's why I keep bringing that on the screen. Then the next is logic operators, still Boolean, where now in logic we talk of not, we talk of and we talk of or. I had taught this, so these are just revising so that we move together. When I say not a, not is an operator. Operator is just like in maths we have add, subtract, multiply. So in programming languages, we have more than just mathematical operators. So these are called logical operators. And when I say not a, not is an operator. It works on a variable called a. And the result will be true if a is false. And the result will be false if a is true. When I say a and b, the result will be true if both are true. If I say A or B, the result will be true if either or both are true. Those are just recap. Then I have explained on this, the control flow branching. So the if expressions, and then you continue. If expressions, and then else. If, elif, and else. I've also explained on that. So now let's think about using control in loops. Loops. So I have mentioned that a loop is like repeating some code. I want to give, again, a very practical example, and then I will give other examples. When you are repeating, then it means you do something, and at a particular point, you have to do that thing several times until some conditions are met, or until the conditions stop becoming true. So I'll just bring the issue of withdrawal, of withdrawing money from the bank or M-Pesa or whichever mode you want to withdraw. The thing is, I need to have some deposits. So if I have a deposit of 20,000, so my account has 20,000, I can come and then my code will be, I want to withdraw. Is that the way we write withdraw? So I will withdraw if what I want to withdraw is in my deposit account. Then I'll be allowed to withdraw. So if I withdraw 5,000, then my new deposit will reduce. It will be the old deposit. It will be the old deposit. So my new deposit will be the old deposit minus the withdrawn amount, the amount that I've withdrawn. So that means my new deposit will be 15,000. From here, I can still withdraw. So when I withdraw, I have done withdraw. I have done withdraw. I have withdrawn 5,000. I still have 15,000, so I can still withdraw. So if I withdraw 2,000, I'll have to update. So it will be 15 minus 2,000. So I'll be having 13. I can still withdraw maybe 10. So I am repeating the withdraw part. I will withdraw until when I have maybe 50 bob or 30 bob, I may not be able to withdraw. Then I will be told that I have insufficient amount in my account, so I can no longer withdraw. But as long as I have money, that session can repeat. And it is that which we are calling repetition. I can continue withdrawing until I no longer have now money in my account. So using control in loops, simple branching programs just make choices, but path through code is still linear. Sometimes you want to reuse part of the code indeterminate number of times. So you just want to like go number of times doing the same thing withdrawing, and the code is the same. An example is that you are lost in the forest, and then you can go left or right. So you are playing a video game and are lost in some woods. If you keep going right, it takes you back to the same screen. You are stuck in a loop. So as you keep going right, it brings you back. It will still bring you back. So until the moment that now you will go left, then it gets you out. So you will be stuck in that same loop until the time that you will be able to get out. So you will be like, if exit right, set background to woods background. If exit right, set background to woods background. If exit is right, set background to woods background, and so on and so on. Else, set background to exit background. So that means The moment now you go against right, then you will be jumping out. L, set background to exit background, and then set background to exit background. So that will be making you loop, 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 especially when you're doing a video game. So the other way is, instead of using if now, because now you don't want to branch, then now you will use a syntax that allows you to loop. In Python, we have two. In Python, we have two, and we are going to use them. So we have while, and we also have another one called for. And we are going to see the way we use both. So in Python, we just have two structures of two loop structures. So we have while and we have for. I would say while exit right, in case of the Lost Forest video game, while the condition is exit right. So that means if you are exiting from the right, that is the condition. You put a full colon and then you indent. Set background to Wood's background. So as long as somebody keeps going right, exiting from the right, this code will continue to be repeated. The moment you do the opposite, then you will set background to exit background. So instead of all those ifs that we were reading, you will just need this short code to help you loop. So the most important thing to let you know there is that we have while, and then we have the condition. Anyone talking? Okay, so we have while. I was muting someone. We have while, then condition. Condition will just be in the comparison operators to return true or false. So we have while, condition, then you indent the block of code that should be executed as long as the condition remains true. As long as the condition remains true, the code that is indented inside here will continue to be executed. The moment the while loop, the moment the condition becomes false, it will get out of the loop automatically. So you don't have to say another thing. It will just work on this code as long as the condition is true. The moment the condition becomes false, it gets out. I'm thinking of a scenario where I want to calculate maybe sum of numbers. That would be a good one. I want to calculate sum of numbers between 1 and 10. So that means I will add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Let me put it at 5 so that I don't go so long. So between 1 to 5. If I add this, what will be the result? 1 plus 2, 3, 3 plus 3, 6. 6 plus 4, 10. 10 plus 5, 15. So I'll get 15. So I want to write a Python code that will allow me to add all those numbers. So I don't want to say enter 1, enter 2. I just want the code to go through. So what I need is just maybe to tell my program where to begin and to give some count variable that is going to help me count so that I know I've now reached 5. Because I want to add from 1 to 5. So maybe I'll set the memory where my sum will go to. I'll call it my sum or total or something to 0. It should contain 0 so that I start adding the memory. Normally, memory can never be free. Memory has something, so you set it to what you want it to have. So if I set my sum at 0, then it means as I add, things will go inside there. So I'll have my sum is 0 is assigned to my sum. Then now I'll have some count. I want to start counting maybe from 1. Then now my condition will be while now count is less or equal to 5, full colon. So I'll put this in brackets. Because I'm counting, I just want to count from 1, 2, 3 up to 5. So I'll say, while my count is from 1 to 5, I have to put a full colon here. Then I indent the block of code to be performed as long as this is true. So the things I'm going to do when this block of code is true is first of all to change my sum so that my sum will now be my original sum that was 0 plus count. So my sum will be original sum plus count. And then if I don't move the counts, just like when I was working with the bank deposit, if I don't reduce my deposit, I will be able to withdraw forever. The only thing that will make it stop is that every time I withdraw money, I also reduce the deposit amount by the one that I've withdrawn. So as I loop, I now need to increase my count from the original count, which was 1, and add 1 to it so that it moves to 2. And then when I'm done, now I can print out my sum. So remember now, I'm not printing my sum within the loop, I'm printing my sum outside. So let's see how this will work. I'll have a drawing. I hope we'll be able to see it. I've put it somewhere very ugly, but it's okay. So I'll have my count and I'll have my sum. My sum is starting at 0. My count is starting at 1. Then while count is less or equal to 5. So the question we ask is count less or equal to 5? Count is 1. So is it less or equal to 5? You should always have your microphone on at that moment only when I'm asking questions so that I know we are together. Hello? Hello? Okay, Daniel.
Yes.
You will respond for the class, okay? At least I need one person to respond for the class because all of us cannot respond. So that I know we are together. So my count is 1 at the beginning. My sum is 0. While count is less or equal to 5. Is count less or equal to 5? Yes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so when it is right, then my sum will become my original sum plus count, and count is 1. So that means my sum will be 1. Then my count will be now count plus 1. So my count will be 2. I will go back to check again. While count is less or equal to 5, is 2 less or equal to 5? Yes. So that means I'll repeat this code. Sum is equals to original sum plus 2. So sum will be 3. Then count will be 2 plus 1. Count will be 3. Then it goes back to ask this condition. While count is less or equal to 5, is 3 less or equal to 5? Yes. When that is yes, what happens? Sum becomes the sum plus count. So sum now becomes 6. And then count is now count plus 1. So count becomes 4. Then it goes back to ask, is 4 less or equal to 5? Yes. If it is yes, then sum is sum plus the new count, which is now 6 plus 4, and that is now 10. Then count is count plus 1. So count becomes 5. Then it goes then to ask again, is 5 less or equal to 5? Yes. So then sum becomes sums plus count. So sum now becomes 15. Then count becomes count plus 1. So count becomes 6. Then it goes to ask, while count is less or equal to 5, my count is now 6. Is 6 less or equal to 5? No. So it cannot do this too. Why? Because the condition is now false. When the condition is false, then it gets out of the loop. So our loop ends here. So it will print the result, and the result will be 15. And that is what we saw. The result is 15, if you remember that. So basically, that is how loop works. It just goes like that. The moment it gets out of the loop, boom, it gets you whatever you need. So the while will check the condition, full colon, then you block the expressions to be done when the condition is true. Otherwise, you get out. So condition evaluates to Boolean, and we had talked about the meaning of Boolean. Like it is an evaluation that evaluates to either true or false. If condition is true, do all the steps inside the while code block. So this is not if like in the branching, it's just an English word here. So it checks the condition, and if it is true, then the code, the block within the while code will be executed. Check the condition again. So that's where we were going. Is count less or equal to 5? We were checking it again. We were checking it again as we repeat the same code, checking it as you repeat the same code, checking it as you repeat the same code, until the condition becomes false. The moment the condition becomes false, you get out of the loop. So let's see. Of course, I have given an example of that one where we were summing all the numbers between 1 and 5. So you can say n is equals to input. You are in the lost forest. Go left or right. While n equals right, n equals input. you are in the lost forest, go left or right. The moment this, so you will realize that when you're working with this code, this is, I think, where I need to ask a question so that I know if we are together. What do you think this code will do? I'll be checking names and I'll be expecting at least a microphone. You can raise your hand or you can unmute. Maybe and tell us how you think this code will work. Hello. Thank you, Daniel.
For me, I think if someone says that inputs left. Hello.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
The code will stop.
So the moment you keep putting right, this word right, you will always get an input box telling you to, you will always get an input box telling you you are in the lost forest, go left or right. As long as you keep putting right as the value of n.
Right.
But the moment you put it as left or maybe anything else that is not right, then it will get you out of the loop and then it will print the result. So for you to see you got out of the lost forest, you must not put the word right. Sawa sawa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. So let's see how for loop will do it differently. So just to compare the two. While using a while loop, you remember in the example that I gave, I had given like an initial value. So for instance, in this one, I'm saying n equals 0. While n is less than 5, print n. N is equals to n plus 1. So this simply means that I am starting at 0. I am checking that it is between 0 and 5. And I am printing all the values of n as long as n is less than 5. As I do that, I must increment the value of n, because if I don't increment the value of n, then this loop may not stop. I may loop forever because n will always be 0. So for me to get n being greater than 0, then it means I have to increment its value. That's why I'm now saying n is equals to n plus 1. So that when I go to check again, n will be 1. Then I do this and increment. When I come to check again, n will be 2, n will be 3, then n will be 4. The moment n becomes 5, it will be over. So I'll be printing 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll not be able to print 5. Why? Because I'm only dealing with those that are less than 5. So I can't print 5. So while loop requires you to state the beginning point, to also set your condition, and then also do the increment. So you can always do increment or decrement. I'd explained the decrement maybe in the case of when you are withdrawing money from the bank. you have to decrease the value that was originally in your deposit. If you don't, you will end up withdrawing forever. When you're working with for loop, in the other hand, a for loop allows you to work within a range. It allows you to work within a range. So the moment I say range 5, so I'm saying for n in range 5, range is a method that just gives a range of values. I'm thinking of the right word to use. So when I say range 10, then I believe I'm talking about all the numbers between 0 up to 9. So it is between 0 and 10. So it has 10 is left out. 10 is not part of the range. It is all the numbers between. If I'm talking about range 50, then I'm talking about all the numbers between 0 and 49. All the numbers up to 49, so that 50 is usually not within the range. The beginning up to the end. And when we are counting, we start from 0. A for loop also work with other data types that we had not learned. They are structures that we had not learned. These data types includes, I just mentioned them. I will discuss them later. We have dictionary, we have set, we have tuple. Yeah, these ones are data types. Remember when the only data type we have discussed is a single data type. So we've just measured on variables, and variables is what we discussed. And we said that a variable is a temporary memory location. And we said that a variable is a memory location that will always store one value. So if it stores 30, if I want to store 50, I have to replace the 30, so I'll overwrite. So if maybe I say A equals 30, 30 is assigned to A, that's how we read it. 30 is assigned to a memory location called A. Then this A cannot carry any other thing. If I change it to maybe 60, it will replace, it will overwrite. But these other data types that are called list, dict, set, or tuple, they are structures, they are data structures. They are not just a variable. So it means that it will have, the memory will be partitioned into maybe different partitions, like in a string. And then now, if I say this is a list of names, then here I can put Lucy, Lihanda, Gerald, Daniel, Ramadan, and somebody else, Shalin. So then I can always reference them by their index. So if I call index 2, then Daniel will be printed out. If I call index 3, then Lihanda will be printed out. Index 0, Lucy will be printed out. Same with string. String is also partitioned like this. So if I have maybe the word gives. So if I call index 3, E will be printed. So in this case, I can talk of range. So I can say for range N in L, because this is the name I gave, in L. So for N in range L, and because L is a string, or L is a list, or L is a dictionary, the beginning is seen. If it is a string of the word Lucy, the beginning of this string is from L to Y, and it has the index 0, 1, 2, 3. So it is in the range, in that range. So this one's list, dictionary, set, tuple, string allows us to, we can just also mention them. We can use for loop to access them. We can use for loop to access these data structures. We can use for loop to access a range of numbers or a range of string, and that will work for us. So that's how we work with for loop. So what we do is that we say, for example, if I say for n in range 5, print n. So what this will do is the same as what this will do. So the whole of this code is the same with just this code. There is no difference. And if I work it out and print it, it will give me just that. So that is to say, in for loop, this is the syntax. You say for a variable in some range. So it can be for a variable in range, some number. It can be for a variable in maybe some data type, some data structure, like for a variable in this list, for a variable in this string, for a variable in this dictionary, for a variable in this set. So it will go like that. You put a full colon and then all the expressions that needs to be done, as long as we are within that range. At the end, it loops out, or it gets out of the loop. Each time through the loop, variable takes a value. So if we are in range 5, then the variable will move from 1, 2, 3. As it loops, it changes the value. It increments by itself from the beginning to the end of the range that you have given. First time variable starts at the smallest value. So that's why we are saying for a range of 5, it will begin with 0, then +1, then +2, then +3. So next time the variable gets the previous value plus the 1, and it moves like that, until when it reaches the end of that range, then it gets out. So that's how a for loop will work. We can also have a range where we set the start, where to stop, and how many steps to jump. For example, if I say in a range of maybe 1 to 10. So I'll say 1, then I'll put a comma, 10, then I'll put a comma, and if I say 2. So then I'm meaning for a range of beginning with 1, starting at 1, and jumping 2 steps, but moving up to 10. So I'll be moving like it starts with 1, then goes to 3, then goes to 5, then goes to 7, then goes to 9, then stops, because I cannot move again. It was supposed to end at 10. So if I jump 2, I'll be at 11, and that will be out of the range. So that's how I'll be moving. So for loop can allow you to do 2 steps, whether you're working with string, whether you're working with numbers, whichever range you're working with, it allows you to do that. So I can say my sum equals 0. For I in range 7 to 10, my sum plus equals I. I believe we all know this assignment. This one. We talked about it in assignment operators, and I'll keep repeating until it sinks. But this simply means that take the original value of my sum, then add it to my sum, the new my sum. Okay, that is the wrong way to say it, but it means that take the value of I, add it to the original sum, and then put it in the variable called my sum. So it will be doing that. That is what this plus equals mean. So you can also say minus equal, times equal, and I'll share the notes, and you'll also go through the Zoom link, the Zoom videos, the YouTube. So then you print. So this will print addition of 7 plus 8 plus 9. It will not touch on 10. If I say for I in range 5 to 11 in the steps of 2, I'm expecting to get the same result because I'll be moving, in that case, I'll be moving from 5, then to 7, then to 9. And then I'll not continue because it will not touch on 11. So the start point is inclusive, the stop point is not inclusive, and then the steps is the third value. So that's how for loop works. When you're working with loops, you can always use break. The break statement will make you to exit whatever loop it is, as long as you have reached some value that you have stated. So it skips remaining expressions in code, exit only innermost loop. So if I say while condition 2, expression break, it will not do this other one. It will break at this point. We'll see that when we do it.
First off, I want to congratulate you for taking that first step and registering for today's masterclass.
So if I say my sum is equal 0, for I in range 5, 11 steps of 2, my sum plus equals I. If my sum equals 5, break. Print my sum. What do you think will be printed? Try scanning through. You can use a pen and a paper, but you can't type. And try to be faithful.
Five.
Wow, who said 5? Let me see who talked. Who said 5? I wasn't checking the...
I said.
Oh, Captain said 5. Any other answer? Any other different opinion? Different opinion? You can't be all quiet. Lihanda, you haven't talked today. What's your suggestion? What do you think will be printed? You are muted if any case you're talking. Or you have typed, let me see. I think 5, okay. Fabius think 5. Who can explain? Daniel, Captain, you are very fast to say 5. Why do you think it's 5?
I said 5 because in executing, it will first arrive at 5, and it has a code that say it says that if my sum equals to 5, you should break. And the break, as you said, it ends the loop immediately.
Yes.
Meaning it will put 5.
Thank you. So actually that is what will happen here. If I run this code, the result will be 5 because it is beginning at 5. So I don't even expect it to loop. It will begin at 5, and then the sum that was originally 0 will be 0 plus 5 because my I is beginning at 5. So the sum that was originally 0 will be my sum plus 5. And then the next statement within the loop is that if my sum is, if the value inside my sum is the same with the value 5, so for those people who are not there when we were talking about operators, you have at least seen that we have double equal sign. The double equal sign is a comparison operator that is used to compare. So it means that there is a memory location called my sum. Let me call it MS. And then I am being asked to go and check that memory location that is called my sum if the value inside it is 5. If I find that the value inside it is 5, I should break out of the loop, then come and print that value. So if I say for I in range 5 to 11 with the steps of 2, and I'm beginning at 0, then the first round I will be 5. Then that means I will add I, which is 5 to the original sum. So my sum will be 5. Then if my sum, if the value inside the memory, my sum is equal, is the same as 5, then I should break. So this means it will come here, realize it is 5, then it breaks. And so once it breaks, it will not even come back to continue with this loop. It will just get out of the loop and print. So the result here will be 5. So let's try and compare these. For loop versus while loop. Maybe before I bring these, I would ask, what do you think, what would you say are maybe the differences between a while loop and a for loop? Because they are all doing iteration, they are all doing repetition. What do you think would be the differences? You can place on chat. We talked about annotation, so you can just get your annotation and write on my screen, or you can talk. At least I need to see people writing on my screen or writing on the chat or talking.
Hello.
Yes, who is talking? Let me see.
Daniel.
Yes, Daniel.
I think the for loop iterate a program several times. For the while loop, just one.
Hello,
Another person, okay, Ramadan.
Yeah, I think that when you're using for, it will allow you to specify the starting point, the end point, and the steps you can skip. Yeah, and while one won't allow you to do that.
Okay, I'm trying to buy that. Another person. Okay, I have chats. I think a while loop iterates infinitely, while a for loop iterates for a specific number of times. By the way, when you say infinitely, do you mean like it loops forever? Like it doesn't stop looping? Giving you time to type. But Captain, you have talked when I've muted you so many times, so I believe you can now unmute and talk. This is the time we want you to talk now. Captain, or your background is noisy now. Yeah, you can talk.
I would like to say that while loop can take an infinite number of a wide range, that is, but it does not go forever, as you said. While a for loop, yeah. Well,
okay, I can't hear you. But it's okay, I get you. I get you. So let me again explain. The first person who said that, was it Daniel? Who said that a while loop loops only once, but a for loop can loop several times. And then I said no. For a for loop, you know the number of iterations. I think that is what Captain is calling infinite in the case of while loop. For a for loop, you know the number of times. You can literally check and say it will loop 40 times, even before touching, because it works within some range. So it requires you maybe to be working with a range of numbers. Maybe you are working within some data structures. So you know a data structure as just an index that shows you this is the beginning and this is the end. If I have a string, it is just having a beginning and an end. So a for loop, the number of times of iterations is known to you. But a while loop, it is unbound number of iterations. So the iteration will definitely depend on the condition you have given, and maybe it will loop until the condition that you have set and the count variable never matches. So that means that if I am working with a while loop, then I need to have something to help me control the loop. You can call it count. There should be a variable that is helping you to control the loop. And this is the variable that you will be incrementing or decrementing so that it helps you to count. But for a for loop, the number of times it will iterate is known. Another thing is that both of them can end early via break. So I can use a break for loop. I can use a break for a while loop. They both uses a counter. So it is only that the counter in the for loop works without you defining it. You don't define it, it works. It is within that range. So it counts within the range. But when you are using a while loop, then you must initialize it. You must initialize your counts, your counter. You must initialize it. You must decrement or increment it. so that you get out of the loop. If you don't do that, it will loop forever. You can rewrite a for loop using a while loop. So when you have a for loop, you can always change it to a while loop. But when you have a while loop, you may not be able to. At some times, it will not allow you to maybe manipulate it. So all the for loops can be changed to a while loop, but not all while loops can be changed into a for loop. Good. So allow me to bring in my Google Colab and maybe just write some few codes and give you some few before we do something else. So this is somebody's screen. If I use it, whose is this? Whose is this? Ramadan, this is yours?
Yeah, it's mine. You can use it.
Can you allow us to work on your machine today?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, it will be good. So you will actually we will just share it. So people will just put their email addresses here and then we just share after we learn. So I want to, let me bring a text first. So we want to write a program that allows, is that the way we write allows? Us to print a sum of all the numbers between, let us just print the numbers first. Print all the numbers in the range, that means between, in the range of 0 to 11. I want to include 10. So that's where I'm putting that. So I'll write them. I need to bring a code below it. Yes, so that it will remind us. So I want to start with the while loop. I want to start with how I would do this in a while loop. In a while loop, I will need something to help me. So I'm calling it count. You can call it anything. I'm calling it count, and I'm saying it will begin at 0. Then I'm saying while that count is less or equal, no, it's less than 11, so that I stop at 11. I stop at 10. So that means it should be less than 11. Print count. So I want to print all the counts as long as they are less. So if I run this, sorry, what's going on? It's looping forever. Yeah, we didn't increment it. So that's why it went forever. So count plus equals 1. I need to have this. I need to cut it. So let me just comment it here and bring it up here. Say print we'll see the difference, count. So let me run it. I want to comment one of it, so I'll comment this one, or I don't want to rub it so that we see the difference. So the program will not see this code here. This one will not be seen. I've commented it out, so it is not there. So if I run this now, then the result will be, this is the printout. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So remember I have started by saying count equals 0. Then I'm saying while count is less than 11, print count. So it will be printing for me count, but it is incrementing. The other time when I didn't have increment, you saw what happened. Or maybe you didn't. So let me run it again. If I run it like this, those zeros will never end. In fact, you see what is happening? And it is continuing. It is actually, I can move like that. It is continuing. You see? It is moving down and moving down and moving down. And it is just running and running and running. That is what we call a logical error in programming. The program does not have any syntax error. There is no problem. There is no semantic error. There is just no error, but the program has a logical error. Just because I left this, I didn't increment. So I just need to stop it and then run it again. When I run it with this on, then it will now increment. So that is what I was saying. If you don't change the value, if you don't tell it when to stop by incrementing this original value, it will loop forever. And thank God you have seen the way it loops forever. So let me see if I increment first, if I print the value first before I increment. Let me see if there will be any difference. So I'm incrementing count plus equals, count plus equals 1. So that means I'm incrementing before. Can anybody think of what the difference would be? Can anybody think of what the difference would be if I run this code from the other one?
I think this one might include 11.
Include 11. The condition remains the same. Count is less than 11, so it can't go to 11. The count is less than 11. You can use a paper and a pen and try to see what is happening.
I think it will output 11 too.
That's Daniel. Okay, another person?
I think it will output the same as the other one.
It might input, display the same as the other one.
Yeah.
Charlene, you said the answer will be 10. Explain. Austin says it will be the same. And then Charlene, you say answer will be 10. Explain.
I think the increment incrementation will be going on until the count is less than 11. When it reaches 10, now it will go to the printing thing, and then it will print 10.
Nah, remember both the increment and the print are within the while loop. So it will just be the same, but there is a little difference. The difference is why I want you to use a pen and a paper. So let me help you use the pen and a paper. We are starting like this. This is how you use a pen and a paper, so that next time I say use a pen and a paper, please use it. So we have this. You draw so that you know what happens. So we have count and we have the display, the one being displayed. So we want to see how it will work. So I want to call it the count that is counting and the count that is being printed. So the one that is being printed goes here, and the one that is being counted is here. While count is less than 11. So is 0 less than 11? Hello?
Yes.
Somebody has to answer for the class. Is 0 less than 11? Yes.
Yes.
Count will be count plus 1. So count will be 1, then you will print out the count. Do you now get the difference? So in this case, we will increment count first before we print it. So when we print it, it will not print 0. Let me run it and see. Nyinyi watu. Endless loop. This should not be an endless loop, just in case. That should not be what I want. It is looping all through within there. It's not loving my work. Let me Control C. Oh yeah. Let me get this out first and see. It will loop here forever. It should be able to check this. Print this. Don't worry about that. So we have 0 while count is less than 11. Count equals, it's not even loving it. Counts plus equals 1. Let me stop it first. I want it to begin at 1. And that means I have to change this. So that will not make a difference anyway. It's okay. So that will actually not give me a difference. So let's see how we would change this to a for loop. I want to give you that to try. And maybe somebody can share the screen, or you can do it the way you did it last week. You can type it over my screen, annotate, or just type it on the chat. But at least I need to see like people trying. Try changing that into for loop. When you're through, you can shout. So I'm giving you like 2 minutes. Like 2 minutes. Fabius, you're asking some question? On the chat.
Okay, the other one which was refusing, that was the problem.
Oh, I used plus equal instead of equal plus, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd figured that out. Anybody through with for loop can direct me, because I'm not seeing people typing on my screen. But I would want people to annotate so that you just type on my screen. So I know people have code. Somebody can direct me. Who wants to share the code? Hello? Anyone? John, how are you? John, hi.
Hi, too.
It will really be difficult for you to write the whole code like that, Fabius. So maybe just type it and then paste it on the chat. Or try T. Is there no T in your... There is T on annotation so that you type. Hello? Hello? Somebody has to talk for the class for me to know that people are here. So if we are to do a for loop on this, assuming that people have done it or people are trying it, I would just say for and then remember we said we say for a variable in some range. So I would say for count in range. And now the range is between 1 and 11. Then full colon. And then you just say print count. So when I do that, I should be true. For counts in range of 0 to 11, print count. So if I run this, it should give me the same result as of while loop. So see the difference. See the difference. Or somebody had placed his on the chat. Let me see. For X in range 11, print X. So that's nice. I can actually use yours instead of mine. So I'll just copy and then paste. And then people will see that it works just the same. So it says for X in range 11, print X. So if I run his 2, then I'll have it up to 10, just the same way as mine. So the idea here is when using while loop, you set your value where you start from. You show how far you want to move by indicating in the condition, and you also increment. If I want it to print from 1 to 10, then I will tell it to begin at 1. So it will not begin at 0. If I want it to move by maybe some steps of 2, I'll just run it. And then it will be jumping like from 1 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 11. If I tell it to move with the steps of 3, it will be moving like that. If I want it to maybe begin at 5 and move to in the range of 11, then it will begin at 5 and move up to 10. If I want to include 11, then I do 12. In the other case, if I want it to go up to 11, then what I need to do is to say equal. So I'll say count while count is less or equal to 11, and then it will now include 11. So you get the difference. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want us to try another one. And this one should be able to print all the even numbers. All the even numbers between 0 and 11, in the range of 11. All the even numbers, not evil, all the even numbers that are between, all the even numbers from 0 to 10. So 10 is included. How do you do it? Again, let me give you 2 minutes to think it over. You can write it on your book so that when we write it, you will see if you got it. Just write it. You can type if you are able to type fast. You can put it on chat.
Can you repeat the question?
I want the same program that we have written, only that it should print only even numbers. Print even numbers. Let me type it.
Oh, thanks.
Just the same program that we have written, but only the even numbers will be printed out. So write a program that prints all the even numbers in the range of 0 to 11. This is 11. In the range of 0 to 11. Even numbers. Okay. Watu ni wajanja. Let me see the Charlene's. Charlene, remember we are talking of even numbers. So I'm just printing yours. Then running it. I'll put you in. You have an error for n in range. Print. I believe you wrote this print, or you didn't indent. Charlene, you're able to see, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
You didn't indent. So you have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, you catch me. So I'll change for the sake of that. I want even numbers, not between 0, between 1. Between 1 and 11. Between 1 and 11. Please don't use step. Do not use the step. That is one condition again. Don't use the step. Let me see, somebody has posted on the chat. I've said do not use the step. So I'm not pasting anything with the step. Do not use these two. No stepping. One minute. In this case, the idea is to make sure that values that are not even are not included. So you need to bring in the if. You need to bring in the if. So I would say if, I'm just editing this, if count %2, you remember that? If count %2 is equal 0, what does that statement do?
The remainder is 0.
Yeah. When you divide
a number by 2, the remainder should be 0.
Yeah. So when you divide count by 2 and the remainder is 0, then you do this. Wow, I like having my loops. If should not be indented. Okay, it has to be indented, and then this one goes here. You'll print counts. This has to be here. Just trying to check. Print count. Just a minute. If count %2 equals 0, then I need to print. This should not loop like it is. It is looping between these two. So let me see. Control cut, Control X. While count is less or equal to 11. Check. You have to check first. Control V. Why is it wasting my time there? So, if count %2 equals 0, that should be okay. That should work. Thinking of why it is not. While count is less or equal to 11, if count %2 equals 0, to do this. That should not even be the problem. Okay. While count is less than 11, I can't understand why it is. Okay. Okay. I don't know why it is doing that. Maybe I check it later, but maybe I also give it as an assignment so that we check it, both of us. And then those who get it to share it in my email address. I think that will be okay. I don't know what I'm missing there. I think that should be able to work. So I'll share it on the chat. Of course, Ramadan, you have it. Oh yeah, sure. Should be out. Thank you for that. Yeah, sure. The count plus, we need to increment in the while loop and not in the condition. So that should be that. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I needed to give assignment just before I got that solution. Thank you, thank you. Let me see who helped in this. Yeah, Lehanda, thank you. Sometimes we say that when you are working and you're seeing an error and it is not working for you, you close the laptop, you go, then when you come, you get it. That's how the programmers do it. So I'll need this to write a code, a Python code, of course, a Python code that will allow you print the sum of values of even numbers within the range of 1 to 50. So you get their sum. That's number one. Number two, you can decide to use while loop or you can also decide to use for loop. So you decide. So that's one. Maybe I'll need to copy it. Control C and paste it on the chat so that you capture it. Then question 2, I'll get it from here. I want to give you something a bit, okay, let me just give you one again. Number 2, you will also write a Python code. Write a Python code that will allow you input ten students. So you'll just like input Lucy, then Linda, then, so you just have that where you input the input box coming 10 times, and then it will tell you that the number is over at the end. After you do the 10 input of the student names, just input the students' names. So you put up to 10, and then it tells you the 10 students are over. So those two. I needed to copy, Control Z, refuse to undo. I needed to copy, not cut. Copy, then paste it for you again here. So capture these two. I think I'll need those two. So when we meet on Friday, we will check a bit on while loop for revision kidogo with a few code, just to run a few code plus the assignment that I've given, and then I'll introduce functions on Friday. Any question? Any question?
I have a question.
Yeah. Should I stop recording? Yeah.